Hey y'all, it is Alexis from Ask Alexis here with a wonderful guest today. We have Gangotri Garg from who is an embodied leadership coach, and she helps people get really in touch with themselves and their leadership style and have really be a leader who's focused on connection. So welcome, Gangotri. Thank you for coming to the comfy couch.
Thank you, Alexis. I'm so happy to be here.
We are happy to have you here. And like I told you before we got on, I just want y'all to check out that beautiful artwork in the back on the wall. Gangotri definitely, so she's homeschooling, so she has art as a part of the curriculum, I see.
Absolutely, whether I want it to be or not. Yes.
So how about you tell us about what it is that you do and why people want it?
Sure. So I teach and coach on embodied feminine leadership. And this style of leadership is really about bringing yourself into your leadership. So when we think about leadership, we oftentimes we think about how do we lead others and how do we inspire others, and how do we influence others. But in embodied feminine leadership, it's really about how do we become a leader first to ourselves and how do we embody our own values and our own beliefs versus what society is asking us to value, and then go out and lead from that place. So it definitely involves a lot of connecting to ourselves from various levels, not just the ways in which we've traditionally done it from our mind, right? It's really how do we connect with ourselves through our physicality, through our body, through our emotions, right? Even through our connection to others, how do we maintain connection to ourselves as we're connecting to others?
Ooh, wait, now hold on. You gave us a whole lot right there. Let me just add something. It's hit me for a second. This is not what corporate America is like.
No.
And what I like that you said a lot was that, like, get in touch with our own values and not just the values that were given to us. I've been in middle management. There's not much room for your own values there.
That's
How
right.
would you help someone who's in that like sandwich situation? How does connected or how does your style of leadership coaching help them?
So I'm envisioning, like, from what you're asking, I'm envisioning someone who's in that position who's struggling, right?
Yes, I just tell you, when I was there, it was I had a special circumstance where I was reporting to the CFO due to some other stuff, so he didn't know squat about my department other than what the numbers should look like. So he was, but there was this feeling that I have to satisfy these
Mhm.
expectations of my superiors while being influential to the people who, you know, I work in service to, but are more of the support role. And like then be the fun leader or the fun, like I'm supposed to not care about tasks and I have to care about people. But my through line to both of these groups is the task.
Yeah, yeah.
What would
And
you
so,
say to somebody like me who forgot to care about people as an action?
well, what I'm seeing is missing in the task and in the people is you.
Oh yeah, no, I was burning the candle at both ends. On New
Yeah.
Year's Eve, I slept there.
Oh my God, Alexis.
I did.
Oh,
I was trying. There was a whole lot of pressure on me at the time, getting go. I was trying to get promoted, and then they eliminated my position after that. Oh, it was so traumatic. But
oh my gosh.
it was a whole thing. Don't get me in my story. You're not gonna have me processing this online, right on live, Gang Tree at all. You're not gonna do that to me. But
Oh my
I
goodness.
left there because I felt like it would have been a waste of time to the half an hour there and back, and I needed that time for work.
Yeah.
I was so misguided.
Well, I get it, right? Because when we don't have that connection to ourselves, we don't know what we believe and what we really want. And we're like in this illusion that we want what what we're supposed to want, or even what the CFO wants. Like we want that. We're psyching ourselves up to believe that. then, and we don't have connection to ourselves, then yeah, we're going to do whatever it takes to get that.
And I thought that it didn't matter about the work that it took to achieve the goal.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, it it seems crazy when I think of how I live my life now. That was 7 years ago, whole new person. Body and all. But
Yeah.
that was 7 years ago. But it seems crazy to think that I thought that if I just work hard enough and do the right thing, it'll be
Yeah.
okay. And that was what I was supposed to do while watching people higher than me live a significantly more leisurely life.
Right. Right. Right.
Like I'm there burning the candle at both ends. And at the beginning of my shift, I'm serving them coffee, even though I'm not their server. And at the end, I'm serving them drinks.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, no, no. So in that type of position, what we would be working on is how do you connect to you? Because there is no you in that situation, right? So what's going on with you, starting from just what do you like? What does all this make you feel like?
Oh my
Right?
gosh. So you're just gonna keep going, huh? You're just gonna
Sorry, no, 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 I'm not asking you. You don't have to do, but you're asking me how I
no, no, no. It made me feel. Oh, it's a lot of nuance to it because I kept feeling like a failure, like I wasn't doing it good enough to have the time.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't good enough at my job, and I felt like if so they were very much micromanaging me as well. This was like a shit show from like shit shows. Like my leadership got a whole like big chunk got eliminated for reasons that didn't have to do with me.
Yeah.
And so during our busiest season, while I was in a training program with two new supervisors, and all of a sudden the weight of the department fell on my shoulders, and I was reporting to someone who didn't know my department.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when new people took over the roles in between, they started like super micromanaging me. Like I had to report every single detail. And then my stuff would be like the numbers or the licenses or the certifications would be up to date and everything. But they constantly, like there was never any let up. And so I kept feeling like, what am I doing wrong? Like I couldn't figure it out.
Right. And isn't that the illusion that we're supposed to be under to be able to do a good job in corporate America, right? It's that idea of perfectionism, that it's never enough. And when we're in that illusion of perfectionism, then we're workhorses, right? Working for someone else.
Oh, and I was a bitch. Anybody that, if you were under my care during that time, I see now how much of a bitch I was. And I wasn't the kind like the call women a bitch. I was a bitch. I was not nice.
I guess my question is though, how could you not be under those circumstances?
And I definitely did not have the skills for connection that I have now. So I wasn't trained well enough. And then I didn't see this until now that I wasn't equipped with enough to be successful. But oh my goodness, when you say get in touch with myself first, that is I was a zombie and I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't keep a relationship. And I just, and I got fired. Like all of that. And then I still got fired.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And I think you said it, right? Like you were a zombie, right? There's nothing going on inside. And so there's nothing to connect to, right?
Yeah.
So that's the struggle, right? Like, I mean, people are out there and we're in these places of where we're trying to survive, right? And in places of supposed leadership. But if we don't know who we are, if we're not connecting to ourselves, then we really have no business leading others.
Oh, but you couldn't have told me that then.
Of course not.
Because the chip on my shoulder, the way I would have grumped at you, okay, I'd have been See that side eye? It would have, like, I'm so happy that happened now, although it is still like only last year. No, not last year, this year. What am I talking about? This year, although this year was 2020 was 3 years. So I can say last year, and what I'm talking about is like sometime between second and third quarter. Um, did I recognize that I still had some effects of that traumatic experience?
I do too.
It made me afraid to give my all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say for a leader who's discouraged like that? Like, so I know what worked with me, but what would, like, so say I come to you after I've had this terrible experience, and
Yeah.
I'm afraid to give my all again.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, honestly, to some degree, my answer would be the same, right? You got to maintain that connection to yourself, because when you do, you start to learn. And Alexis, this is something that honestly, for me, I learned from you. You told me this once. You're not the same person. You're not going to do the same thing, right? But that only comes when you're connected to yourself and when you realize who you really are and you're experiencing who you really are and what you really believe and what you really value on a day-to-day basis. Then you start to trust that you're not that person anymore. You're not going to, giving your all doesn't look the same anymore, right? It's different. So
that is hot fire. No, go ahead. I was just cheering you on to interruption, like.
But yeah, I mean, like you told me this once, I remember it. And it made a huge difference, because it's like, okay, yeah, I can step into these situations and do this kind of work again, knowing that I'm safe, knowing that I'm going to take care of me because I've done the work. I've done the work to connect.
And let me tell y'all, she is so right, because now I'm having a comfy couch conversation with you in my pajamas on my couch, and this is my work. And I have Care Bears, and I'm on the comfy couch set, also known as my living room. And this is a part of my work, and I love it. And it was through connecting to me and who I am, not me, really connecting to I and who I am, and beyond the I. But that helped me be in this life. That, like, you are, and I love what you said about the answer being the same. You are so right, because I was disconnected from myself, and then I got fired, and then I was disconnected from myself in my boredom, which is how I connected to myself. So the answer is right either way. You are so right.
All right, so back up a minute. Tell me the difference between me and I.
Oh, so me is my personality. Me is identity associated with concepts or things. I is I gets to decide who me is.
So I is
before me in process.
Before me. Is it
although the process is sequentaneous?
It's the controller.
Yeah, I is the chooser, the decider, okay, the focuser, the observer.
Okay. So the I has the mindfulness.
Yes, I is the mindful. Yes, I is the mindfulness, the intention setter, the doing things with intentional purpose and presence. I chooses to be. I is who is watching whatever experience you are purposely creating instead of reacting to that experience. Me reacts to the experience. I creates the experience.
Got it.
And getting in touch with I through practice
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to have the experience that let me know, oh, this is how I'm going to live my life consciously.
Yeah.
Conscious living is the way for me. And then there's the whole journey that goes along with that. But it was, so, I had my spiritual awakening. And then there was, in my journey of trying to figure out what that was, that's how I really got into hooked on mindfulness. And then I had experience after experience after experience. So that was what happened.
Yeah.
Um,
That's powerful.
so I'm going to just press pause for a second. It is just how it is. So thank you for that. Now, I have a question for you. We're going to pivot a little bit here.
Yeah.
We talk about allyship. You know me, Gangotri, so allyship is a part of the conversation.
Yes.
And so let's just dive right in. You're Indian, I'm Black. What does that mean as it relates to allyship?
Oh, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I know in my culture, sometimes I almost, when when the talk of racism comes up, and this is a while ago before I had really, and I'm still in the middle of my work around this, but before I had gotten to where I am right now, at least, when the topic of racism came up in Black people, I would want to bury myself in shame, because I know what my culture's generalized perception of Black people is, and
What is that perception?
yeah, it's not good. It's not good, right? It's all the stereotypes that we're familiar with, right? Lazy, um, not willing to work hard, want to take advantage of the handouts, um, criminals, um, not not trustworthy. We don't want our people with them. All that kind of crap.
The normal anti-Black sentiment. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and maybe it's because I'm in the culture. I don't know, but it feels exponential. Um, and there's also just so much bypass that happens in my culture in terms of spirituality as well. And so, like the psychological impacts of pain and of suffering and all that get looked over. Like you're talking about like how it was for you with the CFO.
Mm-hmm.
That's the entire Indian culture.
Oh.
Bypass your feelings and just go, 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 go. And the expectations that are held from up here, whatever up here is, right, is what the entire culture lives by.
That is interesting. So I like you just brought out for me, we talked about a stereotype or an experience that I had before we got on, but then now I recognize I have a bias where, so the fact that you are saying it is like go, 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 in my mind, I perceive the Indian culture as a very spiritual culture. And now that I'm a spiritual person,
Mhm.
it seems like no, they should be way more embodied. But then when I think of imagery that I see around India, it's tons of people stacked all over it. So it's like there's this luxurious, fabulous go 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 life it's kind of like this obnoxious charm a little bit. And then there is this like super like work hard, always angry, yelling at each other work. I see that. But then two, my experiences have been where I saw condescension, like just
Yeah.
as a way of being.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, my own father used to tell me, like, because when I was younger, like I was raised in this country, right? So it's like, why can't you just say I love you? You know? And he would tell me sometimes, he would open up and he was like, I was raised in a way that if I said I love you to you, then I know that you're not going to perform in your highest potential. If I praise you, or if I um, give you love or express love, then I'm actually doing you a disservice because you will not live up to your potential.
Wow. So
Mhm.
like that to me, that's like there's an inherent belief that uh you won't live up to your highest potential, right? Like if you get the praise all of a sudden,
Yeah,
that
without
you're
the
gonna say,
stick.
I get to relax and lay back, which is like, why is there's this perception that if you get love, you'll be lazy?
Hmm.
Because that
Hmm.
is definitely counterintuitive to what you said the stereotypes were. Because we sure don't get love, and then yet we're considered lazy.
Right,
No. Um.
right, right.
So then, what do you think it would take to bring awareness?
Um, so I'm speaking only from my own perspective, right? Not everyone. I grew up in a very, very religious home, and not all Indian people have grown up that way. But from my perspective and the way that I've grown up, I think we got to dial back the religious piece and really look at who we are. It's kind of my same answer, honestly, all over again. It's like, are we willing to connect to ourselves and what's going on inside of us and not bypass this body, right, for spiritual enlightenment? Are we willing to say, like, there's like these fables that talk about, like, how there was a story, I think, once where like there was this saint and this man went to him and said, I want to know God. And the saint said, well, go find somebody to love. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? I came to you for enlightenment. You throwing me back in the world? And he's like, yeah, go find somebody to love. And so the guy goes and goes. And so finally he finds somebody, he gets married, right? Comes back, he's like, I got married. He's like, no, go find somebody to love, right? So it goes through these iterations. And then finally, when he realizes like he's in love, he doesn't feel the need to go back to the saint. And one day he comes across the saint, and the saint's like, what happened? You never came to me. He's like, yeah, I found love. He's like, yeah, you found God. Right. And so like that is what I think gets missed in our culture, is there's this striving for this thing outside of us. Right. But if you look at all the scriptures, if you look at all the texts, there's so much evidence of it. It's right here. But that would be too easy, right? And the Indian way is to do it hard. I'm not working hard enough. It's too hard and it's too easy all at the same time, right?
I was about to say those are conflicting beliefs.
Yes. Yes.
So I mean that shows up. That's a human trait. So then I I've taught actively authentic allyship, and that is the course for white women. But my co-facilitator and I, and like talking to different groups and talking about what we've learned from teaching the course and what happened, have found that there are a lot of people who carry different identities that are non-white, but that they also want to learn how to be not carry anti-black sentiment.
Hmm.
Do you think, being an Indian woman, that that is work that you could unpack with white people? Like, so so if the cohort were to become people who are not identifying as black,
Yeah.
are allowed to take actively authentic allyship so they can shed themselves of their anti-black sentiment. Could you do that work as an Indian woman with white people, or do you think you need to do it with non-whites but also non-blacks? Or does it have to, should it be just Indian women for blacks or Indian people for black?
I actually think that I could do it with white people and Indian people. And the reason why I say that is because as Indians, we've veered white. we're the model minority. And so we have aligned ourselves with whiteness, right? And
Funny, both. Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
no, so I was just going to say, I think because of that, there's a lot of the, I don't think it's identical in terms of like the way in which we have the way in which the racism lives within us. I don't think it's identical. But I think the path out of it is.
So then, would you not be triggered in some ways, though, from the impacts of colonization on your culture, right? Like, so yes, there's this aligning white for the privileges of whiteness,
Right.
but unpacking white privilege and things that are somewhat toxic about the way whiteness has been weaponized in, systemic oppression. You have, like, to me, as a brown person, you are also at the effect of some of that. And while there is this trope, which is wildly inaccurate, y'all, just in case you haven't taken none of my courses and this is your first introduction of my content, there is no model minority. But the trope of model minority,
Right.
shoot, I forgot my question. Like, that is an effect of colonization too. Like, could you do that with white people? I know for me, teaching the course, and during the time that I was teaching the course, during an election cycle and a Supreme Court justice dying and riots and looting and all of that, and having to have my lived experience be a part of the content, they paid me to do that.
Yeah. To be very honest with you, I think for me, unpacking that, whether it's with white people or it's with brown people, it's triggering. Because I think that the whiteness has infiltrated our culture to the point where we have oppressed each other in so many ways.
And I just want to be very clear, when we say whiteness, we are not talking about people who are white. We are talking about whiteness as an effect of white body preference in systemic oppression.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I think that honestly, whether I'm working with white or brown people, sometimes I think I'm dealing with the same thing. Like there's actually a term for it. They call them coconuts. Brown on the outside and white on the inside.
That's similar to Oreo, black on the outside and white on the inside. Oh, don't we come up with kind descriptions?
Yeah, right.
So, well, then let me ask you this. What is some of the ways that whiteness has not, or like aligning with whiteness has negatively impacted Indian culture? Or what is some oppression that you receive as an Indian woman from whiteness?
Well, I mean, I think it's that feeling, right? When you are looking for a job or you're looking for a promotion and you see that you're getting passed up on it every single time, and you're working in a company where there's all white people and you're wondering why, and it's like the fourth time. It's like, hello, you know what I mean? But you're still sitting there second guessing yourself, right? I had posted on Facebook the other day, or not the other day, this was a couple months ago, about my dad going for a walk and having a bunch of white people drive by and telling him to go back to his country, right? So we face all those things, for sure. I also sometimes wonder though, and I'm generalizing here, I don't think this is true for everyone, but I also think that sometimes brown people feel like they don't need to get involved in the race discussion because they're not black or white.
Well, but they do live with fears based on proximity to blackness.
Yes. But that's my point though, is that they oftentimes, what I've seen is they take the victim side of it but they don't see the oppressor side of it within themselves.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of times white
So
people.
wait a minute. When you say that, take the victim, but don't see the oppressor. So like you're saying that I have a problem with whiteness when something negative affects me, but then I also hold negative stereotypes that white people taught me about Black people.
Mhm. Yeah, it's where it's convenient.
Okay.
Again, that's not all, but I think the brown skin kind of enables some of that, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Have you had or do you know of negative experiences from Black people with Indian people?
So say that again. I want to make
So
sure.
like I have felt that I've had interactions with Indian people where they've been incredibly condescending to me, and I did not
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
So those are experiences that I've had. I've also had experiences where that was not the case. You being one of them, but others that are in, like for me, it's a hit or miss. Um, but what do Black people or like have you had experiences with Black people where you feel like it's because you're Indian?
Mm, I don't think I have.
Is that a
And
thing that you all talk about?
no, I haven't heard it at least. No, I haven't heard anything like that. I mean, I haven't heard like somebody say, oh, well, this person treated me this way because I'm Indian. I've heard, it's more of the stereotypes of Black people.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not that they've treated us this way because we're Indian. It's they've treated us this way because that's who they are.
Oh, okay. So it gets cast as a negative light against the whole race.
Mhm.
Like, and they're just like that, not there's a negative opinion about us.
Right.
That's interesting. I feel some kind of way about it, but
Yeah. I mean,
like, well,
well,
damn, when do we get to live?
right, right. Well, let me ask you though, Alexis, like within the Black culture, have you experienced, because you said like your experience have been that you've experienced a lot of condescension, which
Mhm.
I'm not surprised at. Being Indian, I experienced that too. Right.
I was gonna say I don't think it's just like I don't know if it's because of anti-Black sentiment because I do see like that seems to be like we're a passionate culture. Y'all are kind of a condescending culture.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, but what's your question?
But within the Black community, are there certain stereotypes that they hold about Indian people?
So I was thinking about that while we were talking. Things that come to mind are like more based. So not necessarily about a whole group. Well, maybe, I don't know, owning 7-Elevens. Um, love your hair. Love to get what henna. So that's appropriation, but man, do I love them. Man, can I not get hennas anymore? I just can't do hennas and charge for it. Whew, uh, the the that was almost an allyship blunder right there. I had to check myself, like, wait a minute. You see me get all flushed. Uh, I hear I'll hear rude like stereotypes like curry.
Mm,
Like I'm thinking when I went to Wayne State, which is a college, a university down here, in the apartment building, my friend's apartment building, she made a few comments about, yeah, like a lot of Indians live on this floor, so it always smells like curry.
mhm.
Now, in her defense, it did smell like curry. Um, so I don't know if that was a stereotype or a truth. In
Yeah,
that instance, it was a truth, but it may not be true of the whole culture.
right.
Um, Honestly, I have my own infatuation with the beauty of your culture. So it's hard for me to be the one to answer this question
Yeah.
because there's a slight, um, I can't say fetishization, but I have a sorry. I would love to be dressed up as an Indian woman for my wedding. Like, I find it beautiful. I love the color and the gold and the ornate nature and all of that. The elephants, the everything. Like, I do not dislike it at all. So I get sad in my experiences when I experience the condescension and stuff. And in my opinion, like, Indian men are either hot, like super hot, or super not. And there is not much in between.
I'm sorry. That's ringing true.
And I'll say this, I am aware that there is a caste system based on colorism in Indian culture. However, I find a darker skinned Indian man in the hot category. Well, that puts if he's hot and darker skinned, then he's extra hot.
Right.
Because you're still the knot. Right.
Yeah.
And the thought, and I'll say this, I'm normally like blackety blackety black. The thought of marrying into an Indian family with no condescension, I'd do it. If he was super hot, oh man, I would do that. And I get to wear saris and stuff, and I could be dressed like an Indian woman for my wedding and not be appropriating. I would do it. You said what?
We might have to have some conversations.
Okay. Yes, I would. You might have to prepare, give me some tips. But so to answer your question, I don't know, because somehow you asked me about stereotypes and things inside the culture, and now I'm marrying a hot Indian man from a condescending family.
Oh my God.
So I cannot appropriate.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, classic Lex. I'm glad you love me, Gangotri.
So much. So much.
So now I don't know what question to ask. So
I know, right?
Would you like to go ahead and ask your question? Because you do get to ask Alexis a question.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask this, and I'm very aware of the delicate nature of it as well. But I would love to hear more about your journey of overcoming or working with your own internalized racism. And what the tools of that journey are that could help others, even in other cultures, who are dealing with that.
Ooh, okay. So some of it I didn't know was me unpacking internalized oppression. Since my spiritual awakening, I have my moonbeam, which oftentimes for me, it'll just be like, do this. And because I have experienced enough of a relationship with my moonbeam to know that I will, when they say do this, I just do this. This in line, usually, well, I say I have not experienced when it's not in alignment with my purpose. Mm-hmm. Now I have experienced where it's not so fun. Like it was in the beginning when we were first getting to know each other. It was way fun, way more fun than some of the choices later. But it's more like just do this. So when I started volunteering at prisons, that was just do this. But that helped change my perception of men and incarcerated citizens
Mm.
because I carried anti-Black sentiment, in that even though I was aware of mass incarceration, that Black men who were in prison were criminals and deserved to be there, instead of seeing them as cogs in the system. And even if they did commit the crime, they came up in areas where there wasn't much choice. So like experiencing their humanity and seeing how atrocious and ridiculously disproportionately punitive prison is. Like, and I don't care what race is in there. Like, it's not about race. Punitive justice is a cancer to society, period, in my opinion. So I don't think it does anything to create less victimizers. So it does not stop more victims from being created. And it only mildly protects victims. And then it's like slavery. So learning about systemic oppression helped me to not like to take some stuff and put it outside of me. And putting it outside of me meant it wasn't something wrong with me, which opened the door to be able to see a lot of different other like beliefs I was holding and question them. So a tool that people can do is question their beliefs. So mindfulness, conscious, deep listening, conscious listening, reflective listening, those are tools that help you even with your own mind beyond just in relationship to other people. So once I started teaching allyship, I had to learn a lot more than just what I was learning for my own, like reading books and then connecting it to my stories. Then I started to see how much it actually affect my individual lived experiences. In that, so like my mother was a drug addict. For a lot of time, I only blamed her instead of the ways that, first of all, crack was flooded into communities by the government. COINTELPRO, look it up. But instead of seeing, when we talk about those psychological aspects and connection and the impact of like, this is a very tough question because it's not a simple, it wasn't one thing.
Yeah.
When I had my awakening, I would hear drums in my head, but I had resistance when I would read things that were of African nature because I would get all the anti-African sentiment that comes to mind that we're taught in US American culture.
Right.
Like, I remember as a kid making fun of people calling them African booty scratcher. So when I'm reading these terms about a spiritual system and I see African names, there's this invalidation of the information in the book that would come to mind. So initially, my first introduction to spiritual principles was through my colonized mind. I read it by a white author. Because that was the validation of knowledge to me. It's the way that this is how I know what knowledge actually is. And this is the way you know it's true.
Yeah.
So then it was this, like, and no matter how much you can logically know that, until you expose yourself enough to desensitize that bias, it's hard to really feel and understand the lessons that you need to connect. But this is, and this is the practices of my ancestors. So ancestor veneration helped. I have Christian ancestors because of enslavement and, the generation. My most recent ancestors are Christian. I am not. I used to be, though. I was raised to be that way. So I guess the de-biasing strategies are a good place to start. Like questioning your beliefs and a de-biasing strategies work on you too, right? Like, so finding counter stereotypes. a lot of Black people will, like how you said, you internalize some of the messaging. We'll internalize that messaging about us. And so like our code switch self is the right self.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So it's being able to question like what's making you think that you can't, like you're bad if you say finna. Who told you that that was like what's professional? Where did those standards come from?
Right.
Is it a white normative standard? Or how about this? Did you check into yourself and see if that's the way you would like to represent yourself? Or are you just doing what you think is the right thing to do?
Right.
So now that I've said all of that, and that's me processing, the work is still reprogramming your mind and being willing to. I don't care wherever you are on this, we all are affected by systemic oppression. Black people don't know themselves, white people don't know how dehumanized they are, and everybody in between is sandwiched in some level of proximity to whiteness or proximity to Blackness, which means there's a ton of erasure happening.
Yeah.
So racism cuts us all off from our authentic selves. So to answer your question, what is something that people can do is to get in touch with their authentic self, no matter what place on the spectrum that they are on. And then the more you get in touch with your authentic self or your authentic I, depending on whatever level you want to go, the more you'll be able to see it in others, and you'll know the next right moves. Now, if you are wanting to know how to like get rid of anti-Black sentiment, you don't need some training on that. Yes, spirit will lead you there though, right? Like, so I'm not, but don't know that that's a journey too, and start that journey. And you don't have to be perfect at that journey at any start. Whether you are Black, decolonizing your mind, any ethnicity, decolonizing your mind, start the journey, and then you'll get better as you stay on the journey, because you'll get more tools and resources. You'll get more community. And you can take my course. There's that too. Wellness the Ratchet Way is going to be for Black people, but I'm feeling like that's not going to be. So what I realized after sitting on that panel with Bezel Vanderkolk, the author of The Body Keeps the Score, a member of the audience asked, like, how do Black people heal from the trauma of oppression? And I had to give a sobering answer, in that it's not how do you heal, it's more of how do you live with and keep your mind while we heal the world. So it's going to have a different approach, Wellness the Ratchet Way, which is why it's taken a little bit longer to develop. Because even right now, lots of people, like, the wealth gap is being expanded, and we already make 6 cents on every dollar. So that means that, like, budgeting when you are that poor is paying what you can for as much stability as you can create, but you cannot create stability. So it's like this balancing act of the most that you could, like, what is the like, if you think of it like the equalizer knobs, like, what is the to get to a straight line, how close can you get all those knobs to the straight line with what you have? Because they're still going to be like this. And then there are ways to be able to stay, like, to do more, but it takes a lot more mental focus and a lot more energy. And I don't care what level you look at energy, it takes a lot more energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. It kind of goes back to, again, just connecting to yourself and what's real. So,
well, that's always the answer.
that is always the answer.
So then now, Gangotri, before we go, mini cheer and big cheer. Want to cheer on what you're doing?
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
So tell the people what it is that you're doing and how they can get in touch with you, how they could get some of your leadership coaching and get in touch with themselves. Because I
Yeah.
think that was the theme of the day. So we're gonna bring down mini harmony. Okay, get in harmony with yourself is the today's lesson.
Yay. Well, so right now, I mean, as far as my one-on-one coaching, I have about 5 spots open right now. So Alexis will put my links in the notes, but so you can get in touch with me that way. I also have a program that I'm launching on February 22nd called Embodied Feminine Leadership. It's an 8-week program, and we are going to go through my entire framework. So basically, we start with the body, right? Because that's the part of ourselves that we have most likely bypassed, right? And how do we connect in with our body? What's the wisdom in our body? How do we develop a relationship with our body so we can start receiving some of that wisdom? After we do that, we connect emotionally to ourselves, right? So what are our emotions and how, and it always comes back to body, which is why we start there, right?
Well, frankly, that's where we live our lives, y'all.
Yes.
We live our lives inside our bodies.
Exactly. Go figure. So then we go to our emotions, and it's like, okay, what emotions have we abandoned? What have we, which emotions have we said are not, we're not willing to have or not willing to look at? Because there's a whole body of wisdom in those emotions that we have abandoned that we're not getting. So we do that work. From there, we start talking about mindfulness, because once you've got this connection with your body and connection with your emotions, it's a whole lot of stuff that you got to learn what to do with and how to manage and how to create that I, right? Rather than just the me. So we go into that piece of work. And then it's like, okay, now we've got this connection with ourselves. We know how to regulate. Now, how do we connect with others in a way that's authentic, in a way that we're not losing connection to ourselves? So we learn those skills. And then once we're in connection to others, then it's like, oh boy, boundaries are necessary, right? So you
You be done shared it all of you.
Right. So then we go into a whole module on boundaries, and we take a deep dive there. And then once we've done all of that work, what ends up happening is our intuition gets so much stronger. And so then we do some work around that, around how do we hone our intuition? How do we learn how to trust it more? How do we recognize when it's showing up, and all of that work? And so that's all in an 8-week program that's starting February 22nd. And so, I would love to talk to you about that if you're interested in more there. But that's all about leadership. How do you bring yourself into your own leadership?
So what I hear you saying, because first of all, that sounds awesome, but it's like you got to become a leader of yourself before you can lead others.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you're a zombie.
Tell me about it. I work so much less now. Life is way better.
Right.
Way better.
Yeah.
Thank the guys, my ancestors, my guys, thank you all. And my enemies from that place. And yes, I still harbor some resentment. However, I also feel gratitude. Thank you, because life is way better now. Yeah, I get to be quarantined and comfy on the couch. There's gratitude here. So there's also gratitude for you for joining us on the comfy couch. Thank you so much for being here. You're welcome back anytime. You're a friend of the comfy couch.
Thank you so much, Alexis. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
I love you and your work, and I've learned so much from you.
Thank you so much. Love you, boo. I'll talk to y'all later.